Oh my goodness. Do you guys ever feel like the overwhelming black hole of social media like is for real? And that there's like this massive missing link in your story and that all of that gets jumbled and lost in this overwhelming sea of social media stuff, right? Well, today I'm super excited that we have the amazing Michelle Knight with us today. Hi, Michelle. That we're going to be talking with her on the Perspective Shifters, which this platform is all about, focusing on female entrepreneurs, bringing hot topics and like really pain points to us front and center, right? And we're going to talk about them, and we're going to like get some we're going to get some workarounds to how to fix those issues and bridge that gap. So I'm Erin Strayer. I am a, what am I? I'm a business consultant and strategic growth person, and I help you get, I don't even know what I'm talking about right now because I got all kinds of going on here.
We both have like a cold, right? But then we're also like super jazzed.
Super jazzed. We just been chatting for about 10 minutes before we came on live here. So we're like, which is super cool. But yeah, I help you get clear focus, program alignment that results in, obviously optimizing and leveraging you and your business. So that's what I do. And we're talking with the amazing Michelle Knight. And I love her energy. And she is a mom and a wife and a world traveler and a storyteller. And she does all these amazing things. And her lane and her wheelhouse is all about branding and taking vulnerability and turning that and flipping your story into something that actually is transferable. And so you don't get lost in the black hole.
I know.
In the black hole. Oh my gosh. Thanks so much. Thanks so much for being with us, Michelle. I'm so glad you're here today.
Thank you for having me. I'm stoked.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And as you guys are coming on, make sure you say hi to us. If you let us know that you're here in the comments. And by all means, as we're rolling through and you think that this information is pertinent, make sure you share it out to your friends, your team, your coworkers, your girlfriends that are in business of their own and needing some assistance. Also, I think what we're going to be talking about here is pretty doggone pertinent. So, hey,
I just shared it out. I just shared it out on my pages and my group, so I'm excited.
Awesome. Thank you so very much for doing that. And so we're going to just like jump right in. So you were a 9-to-5er.
Yes, I was.
Yeah. And like, do we even need to know what you used to do and what transferred there and transpired? I mean, do we even need to know what the trigger was for you to go, I don't want to do that anymore?
Yes, you do need to know.
I think so.
I think there's so many women that can relate to that. So I was working a 9-to-5. I have a major in communications and public relations. And after college, I went into the nonprofit world. So I was actually working in a job I freaking loved, in a position I loved with people I loved, and I could see myself there forever, right? I'm not one of those stories that was like, I was miserable in a 9-to-5. I wasn't, but I had a baby and it completely shifted who I was, my thought process, everything. And about a month after he was born, I was laying on the couch and I told my husband, I think I'm ready to start my own business. I think I'm ready to, go full-time entrepreneur. I don't know what that is yet, but I want to do it, and I want to do it by the end of the year. And that's basically how it started.
Yeah. So how did you like really dive into that and figure out how to make it work? Like, did you even know what you wanted to do?
I did not. When I started, I really didn't know anything about the coaching industry. My husband and I had done some freelance work, some graphic design. I love obviously working with clients, writing, stuff like that. And he can do design work. So we had done some free. So we're like, let's do that. I'll bring you into the business. Let's start a business together. And I signed up for a program. And as I was going through the program, learning a little bit more about the online world, like as an entrepreneur, not as like a corporation, I was introduced to coaching. And full transparency, I had a really hard time branding myself. I struggled for like 6 months on how to brand myself in the business. And when I realized what the coaching industry was, I also realized there are probably a lot of women out there that struggle with this same thing. So when I figured it out, I said, this is what I'm going to show other women how to do. And so over the course of like 6 months, it was kind of that transition. And then I was like, I'm going to start my own biz. Bye, honey. I love you so much, but I don't want you to be part of this anymore.
I love that. I love that. So you figured it out over a course of, well, you hired a coach and you went through that thing, the program, and then you figured out you and what was making you tick. Yeah.
So when I started trying to, like, our company is called Brand Mary. So when I started Brand Mary, I started looking at everybody else. I went on Pinterest and looked at other businesses that were like mine. I was online looking at other. It was like, I love pink, but there were like pinks and blues, and that's just not really my jam. If you look at my website now, you're like, what the heck? You know, my website, my brand is like fall. That's like what it is. So
yeah, it's all earthy and it's super cool. Yeah.
So I lost a piece of who I was, and I was wondering why I wasn't making any money in our business, because people couldn't connect with me. They couldn't connect with what we were offering. And so I really got in touch with who I was. I took a step back, got in touch with who I was, why I started this in the first place, what my purpose was, what pieces of my story I wanted to share. And my brand just like organically morphed, and it has not changed. Not once has it changed since I did that last year. Every single thing is just on brand.
Isn't that beautiful? I mean, like, it lines right up with you. It lines up with your heart and your soul, and your cells love it, right?
Yeah.
You look at it and you're like, that's me.
Totally. And it makes sharing your message and your voice and your story so much easier, because you're coming from a place that's you, right? It's like you all the way through and through. And I think as entrepreneurs, especially ones that have a personal brand, that is so important. So important.
Yeah. Did you struggle with that right off? I mean, you said that it hasn't changed now for a while, now that you found your jam, right, with it and the colors and what makes you feel right. But between the first go round and morphing into the now, did you find some issues and some like struggles in there?
Well, yeah, the first 6 months were just a struggle. It was just like, what am I doing? Who is this person? Why am I looking to everyone else? Why can't I be them? And I really struggled with being in a transition in my own life as well. Having my son really introduced me to the fact that I was not a vulnerable individual, that I have always labeled myself and been labeled as a perfectionist, which I think a lot of women watching this now can probably relate to, right? Especially those of us that have been in the corporate world. And so perfectionism, vulnerability don't tend to go hand in hand. So, you look at other ways. How can I brand myself without actually showing my true colors? How can I brand myself without actually sharing my story? And so it was a really big transition for me internally of saying, I'm ready to share my story. I know my story will impact other women. Now I just need to step into a place where I am okay with putting myself out there. And when I did make that switch, like I said, the brand fell in place, but my visibility exploded and people resonated with my message because it was true. It was true and authentic. And I know that word gets thrown around a lot, but I freaking love it. I love the word authentic. There is no better word to describe it. But it really just kind of like kept building then from there, once I kind of made that switch.
Yeah. Did you find it hard to, you came from the hardcore corporate also. Did you find it hard to like ease past that perfectionism? We all raised our hands on that one, but did you find that hard?
Oh my gosh.
Morph through that?
Yeah. And it's definitely still developing. I don't think it's ever something that we just like it's like fear, the way I feel about fear. Fear never disappears. We just learn how to kind of move through it quicker, to recognize it as fear from the outside, not how we're actually feeling. I think the same goes with perfectionism. It still pops up, all the time, from time to time. But I've really learned that the questions I need to ask myself, like, are you making this hard? Right? Are you being honest?
Yeah.
Are you, I don't believe business should be hard. I really don't. I think we have to hustle. Like we have to put in the effort, but I don't think it needs to be hard. And as perfectionists, sometimes we'll make it difficult, not sending that email until it's perfect. Guess what? Right. Nobody cares.
Right? Nobody cares.
A couple copywriters do care, but the general audience doesn't care. And once I really established a mentality that someone somewhere needs to hear my message, not everyone everywhere, everything shifted for me.
Boom.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. Like, how big was that? I mean, like, just right now I'm letting that land, and it's like, holy cow, we're trying to, again, it's the sea of social media black hole-isms, right? And when you try not to be all to everybody.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. When you try to be all to everybody and you try to appeal to everybody, your messaging gets cloudy. Nobody can resonate with it. You're stretching yourself way too thin rather than being just really clear and really great at what it is that's authentic to you. So now, we all know this, right? We didn't get the likes. Oh my gosh, nobody shared it, or all those unsubscribers. And I just always remind myself, those aren't your people. Those aren't your people. That's not who you're trying to attract. Stay on your path, right? And I think that's what's really important, and not getting sucked into the black hole from the side of oh my gosh, social media doesn't work, or oh my gosh, nobody wants to hear what I have to say. That's just not true. There's so many people out there.
Yeah, 600 billion or something like that. Something it's really, come on. The one person that unsubscribes from your list, it's I can remember that first time it was stab me in the chest. And it's where'd you go and why'd you leave and who are you anyway for leaving? Yeah, I can remember that the first time, and it's man, you just got to let them go because they really aren't your tribe anyway.
Mm-hmm. Right. And that's what I say. Again, people will, when we do ideal client work or some of my favorite stuff to talk about, and I just remind them, get really clear on who that person is. Get really clear on that dream client, and really focus on how you can attract them with your message, with your story, with your brand. Because your brand is all of that in a nice little package, really.
Right. I know. That's so cool. So once you made this shift, you really saw your people, your tribe, your group just exponentially skyrocket.
Yeah, I really believe in relationship building in starting a business. I could really care less about numbers. I really could, and I know that that's kind of oh, well, she's making money. But from the beginning, I just really focused on relationship building with connecting with my audience. And so when I made that switch, I started thinking of this quote that I absolutely love, that I love to share. It's by Zig Ziglar. And it says, if people like you, they'll listen to you. But if they trust you, they'll buy from you. And so I really made it a point to build trust with my audience through my branding, through my messaging, throwing value around freaking confetti.
Right. Just
you're going to learn stuff. It doesn't even, you don't even have to pay for it. Right. But my business growth has shown that is an amazing strategy. And people start to trust you and say, oh my gosh, she's giving me all of this amazing stuff for free. I wonder what I would learn, how I would grow if I paid her or worked with her, different things like that. And so the women that I've worked with, some of them have been with me from the beginning. Some of the women in my community are still with me from the beginning. I remember their names, my first 10 subscribers.
Yeah.
And there are women who find me and sign up to work with me within a day because, again, it's about that value. It's about being authentic. I don't hide anything. I often live stream with a baby on my back.
Right.
Because that's my life. That's who I am. I'm not going to hide it and put up a facade because that disconnects you from your audience when you do that.
For sure. And I think the more real we are, and you can add to this if you want, but I truly feel the more human and the more real and the more connected we are with our personal lives to our people that are on the other side of the screen, it makes us relatable.
Yes. I'm so glad you said that. I always say real equals relatable.
Yeah. And that's so hard because people, I think especially new people, want so much to be seen already as an expert, or already be making money, or already be, arrived
Yep.
that they put on, airs, or they have their picture taken with the luxury car or the boats or whatever, right?
Ah.
Right? And yay for them. But oh my gosh, and I'll be quite honest, I got a picture taken with a luxury car.
Right.
I don't use it.
No.
But I did it. Yeah. And
well, I'm so glad. Yeah. I'm so glad you said that, because I think when we first start out, right, I did the same thing, right? That's what I tell people. Like, I'm not telling you you're doing it wrong. I did the same thing. Like, I have been in your shoes where, I looked at everybody else. What pictures? We have a joke that I don't have an Eiffel Tower picture on my coaching website. But then, like, people who are in the coaching industry probably can relate to this, right? And there are amazing women who live in Paris, who travel to Paris, and that is their life. But if that's not who you are,
right,
and you're just like pretending, like, be true to who you are. And now I have a picture of me in front of the Eiffel Tower on my website, but I have a baby on my back and on a tripod, my husband and I. And so it's like a joke in my community that, oh, there's the Eiffel Tower picture. But the biggest thing with photography, with just starting out, is focusing on how you want your audience to feel.
Yeah.
Not just what you want them to think when they look at your brand. We want to make them feel something, because that is what builds that trust. That's what keeps them on your website, reading your story, reading your blog, looking at all your photos. And so even something as simple as getting professional photos taken, when you think about how you want people to feel and like your core brand words, and you can get that through in photos, you're going to stand out on social media like crazy.
Yeah. And I'm so glad you went there, because the feeling part of it is like, that's the glue, Yes. That's the magnet that's drawing these people in, right? And then keeping them. And that know, like, and trust, but that all forms around how that feels to them.
Right.
Because there's 100,000 of us out there doing about the same thing.
Right, until you dig under the surface and then realize that everybody's different. But from that very first initial reaction, you're like, oh, it's just another coach, right? Or it's just another consultant, when we all have our own story. So if you're not doing an amazing job of sharing your story, you're losing clients. You're losing potential clients.
Yeah. So do you feel that that's a huge thing that's missing?
Storytelling? Oh my gosh, yes. And true storytelling, right? I want vulnerability, raw stories. And the one thing that I will say is oversharing is not vulnerability. There is a difference. Oversharing is not vulnerability. One great indicator that I love to tell my audience is that if you're giving value, if your audience can walk away reading your story or this one piece of your life and can say, and can apply something to their own life or can grow and change, that's vulnerability, giving value. But if you're just sharing something to share something, you've reached oversharing and we need to take it back. So I think that that's the first thing. But then getting in touch with your story, it is amazing what happens when you do this first. Your brand, your messaging, you 9 times out of 10 already know your ideal client. You already know what programs to offer. Everything just falls into place when the very first thing you do is look at your own story, look at the transitions you've been through, and really find kind of a connector there. It blows my mind and the people I work with how easy everything just kind of comes from there.
Isn't that cool? And for me, I mean, I know the path that I've gotten till now. How brilliant would it have been to have that kind of information? You know what I mean? Really, instead of just extrapolating and pulling and like, come on, somebody give me the real guts here and tell me exactly what, and right. How beneficial would it have been to know you?
I went through all of this so that you guys don't have to.
Right? And really be that vulnerable coach, helping to form those words and those feelings with all the moving pieces is brilliant. I mean, that's quite a skill to have. And I think when you drop down into your heart space, I mean, we talked about this a little bit before, but when you drop there instead of here, that's where like the magic happens, and like it's just beautiful.
Yep. Yep. And like you said, like when we're just starting out, there's so much information. This is the black hole. The black hole is not only like you getting lost, like your post getting lost, but also like you yourself getting lost, your brand getting lost, because there's so much information coming at us that people come to me a lot and they're like, okay, I want a brand, so I need to choose my colors and my fonts and my logo. And I'm like, stop right there, because that's not how we roll. Like, we're going to take it back. We're going to first figure out your story, who you want to attract, how you want to make them feel, what is your purpose, and then the rest of that stuff is easy, and you don't have to change it every 3 months as your business grows, because it's true to you and who you are and your soul and your purpose. And it's just like all in alignment.
I love it.
Really cool.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Yeah, that's really, really cool. And I know that you work very, very diligently on that process, and that there's actually specific steps that are taken there that you go through.
Yep.
Do you want to go there a little bit, or do you got time to go there a little bit?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So I've got all the time. I don't have a kid around me or on my back right now, so we're good. So so the very first thing that I recommend everyone do, whether you work with me or work with somebody else, you're just starting out or you've been doing this for a while, get in touch with your story. Uncover your story. The only way to own your story, feel worthy in your story, is to uncover it, right? Get in touch with it. So I recommend that people, just to start off, look at like 3 major transitions or chapters in their own life that have really kind of changed the course for them. So for me, it's I decided not to go to college right after high school, moved to California, joined a performing arts group. My second one is a little bit sadder. I lost my brother to childhood cancer, but it changed who I was. You know, it was not taking any moment for granted, really just living life, being honest, being true, being on purpose. And then the birth of my son, which really made me step into the woman that I've always been working towards. It finally was the floodgates open, and it's like, all right, you're here. Like, it's time to do it. Yeah. And so that's the number one. Think of those 3 transitions. And then the second thing I recommend is, where's the connector there? And this is really powerful. And sometimes you have to look a little deeper. But where's the connector? For me, it's freedom, right? Freedom from going to college and going and trying my own thing in California. Freedom from doing what everyone says I should do and just living life to the fullest, because we don't know what could happen. Freedom from a 9-to-5 to travel the world, to financially free to be with my child. So that's kind of my connector. So what's your connector? And this becomes such a core piece of your brand. If you go to my website, it's really clear that through pictures, through copy, through everything, it's freedom, right? Yeah. And then the final one is, what do you want people to feel? And by this time, you're like, whoa, I got this down. Like, I know my story, I know my connector, you know, and in line with how do you want people to feel is like, what is your purpose? Ooh. Right? Like, why are you actually doing this? I'm not talking about your why. Your why is awesome, right? But if you were to ask me why I started my business, I'd say to be home with my son, to travel the world, to, you know, pay off debt. That's why. But if you ask me like the purpose, my purpose is to empower women to share their story, so we can create a ripple effect of women stepping into who they are and owning it. That's so much more powerful than just wanting to stay home with my son.
Right?
And that's what drives you as a business owner.
Yeah. And it's, I mean, you guys can feel the power in that. Mm-hmm. I mean, you can feel the energy behind it. You can feel it from her soul, that that's exactly who Michelle is. And why she does, you know, what her purpose is in this world. And that, bingo, that's why you're on my show. So and I love that. I love those 3, you know, the chapters. I mean, that's exactly how you move through life and those life-changing things that have happened to us, right? Mm-hmm. How those have shifted and morphed are now.
And what's really cool, and you mentioned this earlier about when you're just starting and like wanting to be an expert, be an expert in the things that you've experienced. Don't be an expert in the stuff that somebody else is an expert in, because you're probably not an expert there yet. You're probably just like, I need to know how to teach about this subject, so I'm going to like put on that hat. When if you look at your story, you look at your transitions. Maybe, you went from, I say this, point A to point B. What happened there? Did you teach yourself anything? Did you learn a new way of living? Did you start a new mindset practice? What is it for you? You can teach that, right? Because the person you want to teach, I'm giving it all away. The person you want to teach is person A. It's who you were at that point in your story. So you're already an expert. You already know who that person is inside and out. And you can start there. And then as your business grows and you start getting more knowledge, you can expand what you talk about in your topics.
See, it's brilliant. It's just brilliant. And oh my gosh, we got to start cutting this short, girl.
I feel like we could talk for a really long time.
We can talk all day. We could talk all day. Are you taking new clients? Do you have anything going on right now? If people want to get in touch with you, how does that happen? Blah, 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 blah. Because you're awesome and you're amazing. And I'm sure that people are going to want to reach out to you. So
awesome.
Let's talk about all of that. What do you got going on right now? I know you're getting ready for a launch.
I am. I'm in one right now. So I am taking clients through my group program called Roadmap to Freedom. Woo! And it's a 5-month group program. It's live, right? We talked about this. This isn't a self-study. This is like me with you live coaching. So it's a 5-month group program. It is for new female entrepreneurs, ones that are maybe just starting out, that want to start with those foundational pieces so they don't have to go back and do it again. Or those that are maybe been doing it a year and skipped those pieces and want to go back and do it again. So
I can tell you from personal experience, you'll want that.
Yes, no joke.
You'll want that.
Yes, it just saves you so much trouble. So it's really 5 months, a complete roadmap. This, then this, then this, me walking you through the process. It's a group of amazing women working together, and the cart closes next Friday. So we've been talking about branding here a ton, and I do cover branding, but I wanted to offer your community or anybody watching, if they wanted to join us, if they use the code Erin, they will get my 5-week branding course free instantly. Wow. Which is about a $500 value. So
oh my goodness, what a gift. Yeah. Oh my gosh, you guys, if you don't take advantage of that, then there's something wrong with you. Yeah. Do you have a link to that, Michelle?
I do. Yeah, it's BrandMary. Yeah, brandmary.com/freedom. You know, why not? There's that brand word again. And so I'll put that in the comments. And
that's beautiful. That's beautiful. That's amazing. Really, you guys, if you're watching the replay here, I know there have been quite a few people on and off with us today. Thanks for being with us. If you're watching the replay of this and you have questions or comments, make sure you leave them in the feed. We'll loop back around to you and we'll answer them. And we super appreciate you being with us, Michelle. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for having me.
Energy, your amazing energy and your information and who you are in this world, and supporting and uplifting other female entrepreneurs is beautiful. And I love that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you right back here on the Perspective Sifters. Take care.